want a diverse supply chain. I want to use diverse suppliers. That's great. Guess what? These people and these other companies may be really motivated to earn your business, especially if you're talking about SMB type companies that are going to do that. They want to go and above and beyond.
You really want to strive from having a set of suppliers that are going to bring you all of the same, whether it's all of the same product, all of the same thought process. That's really one of the drivers for diversity or diversifying your supplier base.
Welcome to the Raindrop Think Tank series. I'm Dave Cravens, and I'm going to be your host today. And with me is Lisa Westgate and Ward Carson. So today's topic is making the business case for small and diverse suppliers. So Lisa, in my estimation, this is a very hot topic. There's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of press, a lot of publicity, both negative and positive. And so I'd like to really find out from your perspective of what's an important area for this. Why should corporate America want to do this? And what are your thoughts on the subject?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the question. I'm kind of pro supplier diversity, right? I think there's some reasons. The reasons are more significant as to why it's important to pursue a diverse program and diverse suppliers. I think that the top categories are really cost savings, efficiency, innovation, and strength in the resiliency of a diverse supplier base. And when we talk about diversity, of course, there's the certifications that need to be taken into consideration, the minority, the small, women-owned. In addition to that type of the certification types, the compliant-based, I think what we've learned from the pandemic is that the need to have diverse suppliers based on a location, whether it's thought process, right? What you really want to strive from having a set of suppliers that are going to bring you all of the same, whether it's all of the same product, all of the same thought process. That's really one of the drivers for diversity or diversifying your supplier base. You're going to be able to enhance your brand, your reputation, and then let's not overlook compliance, right? Compliance is probably one of the greatest drivers for diversity, and that really started with U.S. government. If you're going to be working within contracts, government contracts, they're going to hold you responsible for some compliance of doing business with certified suppliers. And I think those are the pros to why that's important.
No, I think you're right.
I'm going to jump in for a second. Sorry, Dave, to cut you off, because I want to touch, Lisa, on two things I think that are really critical you were just talking about. One of them is, you said at the top of your response, was cost savings is one of the reasons. I'm actually going to push against that as a procurement guy. By the way, I've been doing procurement my entire career, and I'm only 24 years old, so I've only been doing it for a couple of weeks. But in that time, what you realize is that, I'm not really convinced cost savings is the number one reason people are going to want to make moves. I'll give you an example. We had, throughout my procurement career, we had a client opportunity we were providing outsourced procurement services for, and this was a medical device manufacturer. They single-threaded a solution. The most important part of their piece of a little redundancy would go a long way here. Well, maybe I actually can move, 90% of my business to one provider or 75% to one provider, but I want to move another 25% to a diverse supplier, someone who can fit my needs and fill that slack. So, when COVID hit, that's a problem for pretty much everybody. And the answer why is because what it started realizing is it displayed weakness in the supply chain. You throw a little disruption, okay, fine. It was more than a little disruption. It was a lot. But we started seeing the run on toilet paper at Costco. And you sit there and you're like, this is something that deals with your lungs, not another part of your body. Anyway, what it started showing is that, hey, look, there's weakness in the supply chain. But if I had it, and we could say, I want a diverse supply chain. I want to use diverse suppliers. That's great. Guess what? These people and these other companies may be really motivated to earn your business, especially if you're talking about SMB type companies that are going to do that. They want to go and above and beyond. Could they deliver cost savings? Well, that depends. Is it your number one cost driver? Because you always get the number that you want. One of my favorite sayings is, you tell me, that you'll get that last dollar, but that last dollar might be a little more or less than worth $1 to you. And the question is you want that cost savings? It's the difference between calling 1-800-HELP desk and picking up the phone and saying, hey, Dave, I needed to get on this, and turn that red light green again. Now, if I have a diverse or a small supplier, a minority supplier, whatever the case may be, I may actually have access to and motivation as well as developing a new company. So to me, that would be of interest.
So I was just gonna make a comment of, innovation and some new ideas and fresh ways of thinking about solving problems, as opposed to, larger corporations that are more set in their ways. And, it's like driving an aircraft carrier. Okay, you can only go so far and make so many turns with that, versus something that's more nimble speedboat that may be using better technology or better, more modern ways of thinking. And they may be able to bring in some fresh ideas that you're not going to get from, some of this old hidebound type suppliers.
Yeah, and I think I would push that we're seeing that more with technology right now, right? What we're seeing is that the larger organizations, the larger ERPs, if you will, they are set, right? Their systems are set. They have a product roadmap, and it takes a long, to your point about turning the ship. It's going to take quite a while for the ship to turn for some of these larger organizations. What we're seeing with some of the smaller tech companies is that the ability to implement AI and machine learning, especially in the changes that have happened in this really very short period of time, these past 4 or 5 months, the change in technology, the innovation and the creativity that's coming out of smaller SaaS companies now is compelling in relationship to some of the larger organizations. And I think that's just one easy way to look at that. And I think if you take that same model and you apply it across other industries, you're going to see some of that same type of creativity and innovation.
So I think, there's a lot of social good. There's a lot of kind of qualitative kind of reasons for going and trying to find small and diverse suppliers. But if you're going to go look at somebody from senior level, let's say in finance, hey, this is all about the bottom line. And so, having kind of lofty goals and feel good kind of approaches to this versus, how do you measure this? So where I'd like to get your thoughts around, all right, hey, we put a great program in place and everybody's excited and you're working on it. Then how do you actually make it measurable?
So I think that's a great question, but I think the premise of the question starts off in a little rocky area. And my reason for that is, if we all wanted to look through in our personal lives, if we wanted to look through the lens of we're going to cut our costs 100% across, wherever we can, we're going to cut costs. We would only be shopping at, I'm just going to point to Walmart and Amazon for the moment, right? And that is a personal choice to people. They make, as the executives of their own homes, they make that choice as to whether or not buying from solely Amazon and Walmart help the world in which they live in. And there are other people, of which I will happily raise my hand, who say, I believe in a Main Street. I believe in the products and the products and the services and the goods that I'm going to buy down on Main Street, whether I at times pay more, I'm going to point to the quality of that and say that there's some total cost of ownership, quantifiable stuff in there, right? That from an individual, I can look at that and I can justify at the end of the month whether or not I bought whether a sweater down at my local store, or whether I went to Walmart and I picked up. And I'm not knocking Walmart in any way. I'm not knocking Amazon. But I think, it is about that diversification. It is about looking for that total cost. And it's about finding that person down the street who has spent their time. Again, this is on the personal and not in the business, but I think it's transferable. But to find that man or woman who are down the street who've been knitting for however long, and they make beautiful sweaters. And if I'm going to go down there and I'm going to buy myself $120 sweater, I could certainly buy a sweater over at Walmart, but I don't think it's going to compare in one, in the quality, and two, what I'm doing with my $120 is putting it back into my backyard and motivating the innovation and creativity that's happening on Main Street. I don't understand a world where we don't want a Main Street. And I think we can turn that over to companies as well. When you are fostering the growth, when you're working with diverse suppliers in building out based on skill sets, right? If you're capturing people who are coming out of an engineering school and you're looking for a manufacturing plant, and you can I'm going to actually make it a real life scenario. So working with a restaurant, working with a consultant who's working with a restaurant company, and they want to be 100% sustainable. Like they are going to throw a lot of money at the ability to make this sustainable. But what they want to do is make a repeatable, sustainable program so that they can then have this sold off to other restaurants. Right? This makes a lot of sense. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It takes that capital from that initial group to come up with sustainability, how you're printing menus, how you're working with electric vehicles in order to do the logistics side of it. But at the end of this, they have a repeatable process. They're putting in the capital to make a sustainable initiative that will really, truly be impactful to the community that they're living in.
I totally agree with that.
One more time.
I totally agree with that. That's right. That is absolutely right. And the shame of the world is that we've lost Main Street here, and at least in this country. But I will say this is, Dave, to answer your question, look, the bottom line is the bottom line. And you are absolutely right. There's going to be CFOs who are going to say, I care about one thing. I care about my EBITDA. I care about my quarterly report. Okay. And I get it. But guess what? If that's the only thing, then those companies are probably going to well be identified and known. The thing that I like about that, someone's saying, I'm going to carve out some number of dollars, then I'm going to go and contribute to SMB diverse suppliers. Okay. And that may be $1, it may be $1 million, it may be 100 million. I don't care what your number is, but I'm going to carve that out. And I'm going to assign that I know I'm going to do business with diverse providers. Now, I want to know what type of diverse providers, veteran-owned, minority-owned, women-owned, whatever the case may be. I have to track that, by the way, and you have to keep me tuned in to how that's going. I need to know that I'm meeting my goals. And I know that I may not necessarily have the lowest price deal. And guess what? The law of big numbers is that's okay. What I'm doing is worth more than $1. It's more important that I'm helping to build A, community, B, small providers. Look, at the end of the day, you know this as well as anybody. I own an electric car, but we used to own a gasoline car, and like most people do still, you go to the gas. You want to go to a gas station. You want to go to the low price gas station? Believe me, it's there, and there's a line of cars. You want to go to the higher price gas station? Believe me, it's there, and there's a line of cars. So people make their own choices where they want to spend their money. If they want to spend it and save money, that's great. You can do that. If you want to spend a little bit more and you feel better about what you're doing, that's great. You can do that. Right. So as long as we're carving out some number of dollars and saying, look, I'm going to spend these with certified small, minority owned, diverse providers. And that's important to me as a cultural value at our company X, whatever company it is that's using these solutions. Right. They're willing to say, I'm going to step outside the boundaries of a conversation and just purely dollars and cents. It has to move to dollars and common sense. And people have to say, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing and go spend the way that we probably should and carve those out. Now, I need a system to track. Shameless plug. Raindrop does that. So we'll have those conversations offline, people. But yes, I absolutely think, Lisa, your views are bang on.
Thank you, Wood. And I just want to make one more connection or disconnection. The fact that when we talk about diverse suppliers, that somehow we're talking about less than, more expensive, right? I just simply don't believe that to be the case, that we can use such a broad brushstroke when we talk about that.
Amen. You're absolutely right. You're so right.
Right. I mean, I'm a small business owner, right? I am small business. I am women owned. I am LGBT certified. What does that mean? That means that if, because I hung a shingle, I have these certifications. I have held many jobs, right? My qualifications are not less than because I have my own small business. I would actually say my qualifications have increased as I have my own small business, right? Why is that? Because I'm thinking about things on a far more aggregate level. And I would point to me, I believe the small business certification is the most important certification. There are more people employed with small businesses than large businesses in the United States. And somewhere along the line, we've drawn or allowed a line to be drawn that says the people on this side, the people employed by large companies are worth more or valued more than the people that are on this side that are starting their own businesses or bringing this entrepreneurship to the table, right? Every organization that's these large organizations or a significant, I think where you were the one we talked about this last week, right? A lot of these companies started in garages.
That's right.
That's because they had certification, what they grew into. It's stick around, the magic's going to happen, right? That's the wonderful thing about small businesses. So I just want to kind of separate that line of that it's not this big brushstroke. It's not a brushstroke on skill set. It's not a brushstroke on cost. But I also want to jump on cost and say, if you're doing business with small, and this is one of the things that I try and bring to, excuse me, to diversity programs. If you're doing business with small businesses, understand what some of the challenges are, right? Don't pay in 60 days. If you're a large organization, don't pay a small business in 60 days. If they have certification, pay them, right? That's not, unless you're bonusing off of how much you can keep your payables down by not paying people, which would be lousy, right? Pay small businesses. It's the largest obstacle for a small business to do business with a large business. The second one is understand what paperwork you're looking for these organizations to do. How big is your RFP? Can you think about doing, these are the things that are the roadblocks for small businesses to get involved with large organizations. So it's not always cost on either side. It is often getting paid on time, and it is often the administrative obstacles that are created by doing businesses with large organizations. So I throw those out as just, you asked earlier at the beginning, what are some of the negatives? And I'd say those are some of the negatives, right? Sometimes it's hard to get a small business to respond to an RFP because the RFP is, 87 pages long. I mean, I was a procurement practitioner for a long time. I understand the need to drive in and drill in on specific questions, but I think we can think about things a little bit differently to be more inclusive in how we do business. I'm off my substance.
Lisa, Lisa, real quickly, I'll wrap here and just and hand it to Dave, but I will tell you that I'm excited about what you do. And I think that folks would be good to get it. So whoever's watching this video, please, getting in touch with Lisa to be able to help create, and that's, I think what you do really is help create value at companies. That value is seen in the form of, let me show you what a diverse program might look like, understanding your needs, and then kind of walking that path with you hand in hand, I think would be pretty cool. That's my view of what you guys do. And we're just the technology back end that helps understand who it is you're consuming and how. So I think that, look, ESG, D&I, these aren't going away. I think they're growing in importance. I think being able to go ahead and do good is beyond a question of money. And there's companies who are putting their money where their mouth is to help support it, which is great.
No, I appreciate that word. Thank you. And on the flip side of that, the reason for doing business with a raindrop is in order, I come from the world of, we kept this information on a spreadsheet, right? We kept all of our suppliers, whether good, bad, ugly, whether they've been paid or we ever done business with them before. And, the manual process of tracking this information is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. We don't have in the world right now enough people to perform good work, let alone this busy work, right? This busy work that can be taken care of by having it entered into a system and monitored. And Yeah, I think it's really important that in order to have the processes to fall into place to automate them, it's imperative to have a raindrop, a system that's going to be able to support that. So appreciate what you do.
No, we appreciate it too. I think everybody, it's time to wrap things up. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ward. We really appreciate your thoughts on this very important subject. And we look forward to having future episodes on other hot topics. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.